Hello and welcome. I'm going to demo the back recipe, which is the beginning of the Shiatsu recipe today. So I'm going to begin with brushing down the bladder channel. I like to come up in a lunge pose, so that way I can get my hands all the way up at the shoulders. And it's just a brush, just going down the bladder channel and brush. Come up. And 3, and then I'm going to crawl the posterior body. So once I've crawled the body, I've done my initial intake. So now I'm going to go into mother hand, sun hand. And I already know where I want to go. So again, my mother hand is the empty hand. It would be where the body is softer, cooler, pulling you in. And the sun hand would be harder, warmer, pushing you out. So I'm going to move my sun hand. I really like my hand here. This is like a really nice, this is where my hand wants to be. So if I wasn't doing a demo, I'd probably spend quite a bit more time here. But I want to get my other hand there, so I'm going to go ahead and move this one so that I can move that one. All right. So now we're going to do diagonal stretches on the back. So diagonal means we're going to press away one scapula and then the opposite ilium. So, so you want to make sure, see how I'm, look at that heel down there. See how I'm pressing, it presses that heel down. So you have several ways that you can do this. The first way that I used to feel most comfortable doing it was I would actually cross my hands and use my body weight. So I get my hand right on the ilium and then see his inferior angle right here on his scapula. I'm going to get that so it's right in the center of my palm. So here my arms are crossed, and then what happens is that when I lean my body weight in, it pushes those two areas away from each other. So before I built up my body strength, this was the most comfortable way to do it. But you can also do it without having your hands crossed. Right? The way that I tend to like it the most is with my forearm. So I come in and get my forearm hooked in, and then I Get my forearm. Now my forearm is along the medial border of the scapula, and then I just come in with my body weight and push. There. Sorry. Is that elbow okay? So try those different ways, get feedback. So I'm going to transition over to the other side. So I'm just going to step, step. So it's up to you. You don't have to switch sides to do the 2 diagonal stretches, but I kind of, probably in the beginning you want to. So again, you can do it with your arms crossed. You can do it with your arms not crossed. Or you can do it with your forearms. Okay. So the next move I'm going to do compressions on his back. Now, you can use as much pressure as you and your client want to do. It's breath work, and we want to make sure that we're on thoracic back. So as long as you have ribs under your hands, that's safe. So you can choose to straddle your partner like that. Some people come up and stand like that. So I kind of like the straddling one. So I get my hands so they're on either side of the spinous processes. Like that. And then I ask my client to take a breath in. And then as they exhale, I shift weight. And then they inhale and the weight comes up. Move my hand and exhale. And let's go up. And let's do one more time. When you do that, don't be surprised if you get a back crack. Wasn't your intention to do that, just a spontaneous thing. All right. So this next one is to saw. So it's to create heat. So this usually takes a lot. I usually get winded after I do this. So you really wanna, I do it with my hands like this, and my hands are going like that. I notice that a lot of students like to do it like that. It doesn't matter. But I do prefer a lunge position, just like when I brush down, so that I can start up at the top, and I'm actually able to go all the way down to the leg. So I'm gonna be right on the bladder channel, all the way down. So here we go, sawing the back. I'm gonna do it 3 times on each side. One more. Woo. And now we'll do some passive joint movement. So this move that we're doing here, this passive joint movement, is one of my favorites. So I'd like you to try some different things out. So I keep one hand on the hip. I tend to like my thenar eminence, or the heel of my hand, and medium knee. I use my body weight. But you can also use knuckles. You can use fingertips. Now I tend to like working on the opposite side of the spine from where I'm positioned. But I'd like you, for your own experience, to see what it's like on the same side. So now I'm pushing these erectors towards the spine, whereas on this side I'm pushing away from the spine. So again, fingertips. Knuckles. And heel. So here's a nice transition. I'm going to keep the body moving, rocking, going to stand over. And here's an opportunity. It always feels really good to squish the glutes a bit. Keep rocking. And now I've made a nice smooth transition to the second side. So again. All right. Now I'm going to come up and I'm going to press down the bladder channel. So just to remind you, the bladder channel, here's the spinous processes, there they are. And then here's the medial border, the scapula, medial border. So the first line is halfway in between. So we're going to go down the first line. And then the second line is more lateral. It's really important to have 90-degree pressure. So what that means is that I want to be coming straight down. I don't want to be pushing forward like that. You don't access the tsubo that way. It's not that it doesn't feel good, it's just if you really want to access the tsubo, you need to be at 90 degrees. So I come up and I start with my knee above the head and then my foot out to the side here. So that way, see how it's a straight down, and then, so let me do the first couple of ones. And this can be very time consuming in your treatment, but it's really one of the most beneficial parts of Shiatsu that there is. So I highly recommend taking the time and doing a really good job pressing down the bladder channel. So you want to be mindful to make sure that they can breathe. So some things that you don't want to do, I'm so sorry. Some things you don't want to do is you don't want to put your knee in front of their face, and you also don't want your groin on top of their head. So with that said, my knee is above his head, and my foot is on the outside next to his body. I start about T3, I come out. Now, my thumbs are pretty straight and strong. The minimum I would do, minimum, is 3 breaths. And you can spend more time after. So then I come out and then move down. How far you move down, think like in between each transverse process. Okay? So I have my fingers out here and my thumbs go down. Your thumbs are one of your most valuable tools. So you can also come in and use your knuckle. So coming in and using a knuckle. Now, if I go down to the next spot, see how now I'm reaching? So I'm going to use this location to take my knee that's above his head and bring it down to be above his shoulder. And now notice when I come back up, I'm straight again. Some people like to, their thumbs are like, see how straight my thumb is? It's a straight thumb. Some people have the hitchhiker thumb, you know? So they have to like support underneath. And then, so this is another option that you might try. I'm just so used to doing it this way. This is what feels most comfortable to me. But again, I wanna reiterate, protect your thumb. If this is bothering your thumb, use a knuckle. So we're gonna use the sacrum as a turnaround point. So I'm gonna work my way down until I'm just above the sacrum. We're going to do some work specifically on the sacrum later on in the recipe. So, and we got one more. So now I'm going to use this as a transition. I'm going to stop here, and this gives me the opportunity, on some passive joint movement, this gives me the opportunity to ask my partner, would you please turn your head the other direction? And now I get to switch which knee is down and which knee is up. So I'm not on this knee the whole time. All right, so now we're going to go down the second bladder line. So that's the one that is the more lateral one, right next to the medial border of the scapula. So again, coming in. This is pretty common. The line is right on the edge of the erector, so see how if I get on there, see it keeps rolling underneath me. So then I come in just a little bit more medial so that I can pin that erector down. It stops rolling out underneath me. It's kind of nice that you get to see that because it happens every now and then. And we're, again, right on the edge of the erector, so that's what you should be feeling. All right, so I'm right above the iliac crest. I'm going to stop here. And then the next step is coming up to the first shoulder, so making some nice transitional moves and saying hi to the arm and bouncing the shoulder, working around a little bit. And then we're going to press the small intestine points around the scapula. So I get my dantian in line with small intestine 9 and 10. So 9 towards the heart. And 10. And you don't have to do, you can press 2 at the same time. I like to go into 1 and then hold that for a few moments and then come in the second one, and then when I come out of the first one, the second one stays there, but you don't have to do it that way. You can follow any pattern you want. So small intestine 11, superficial to deep. And now I'm gonna change my dantian here because the next point, the vector goes towards the feet, so I want my dantian to be facing towards the feet. And so coming to 12. And then last one, small intestine 14, right next to the superior angle of the scapula. Favorite for a lot of people. Brent's really liking it right now, but I have to move on. So make nice again, bounce. Make a transition over to the other shoulder. So let's see, I think I'll just do some passive joint movement. And then coming to the second side. Bouncing the shoulder. And pressing the small intestine points on the second side. I won't do this. I'm going to go fast because you've already seen it on the other side and I don't want to take up a lot of time because you'll spend time doing this on your own. So 9 and 10. See how when I'm holding 10, I'm measuring for 11. So there's 11, small intestine 11. And then 12. And last one, 14. So now I need to make a transition down to the sacrum. We're going to do some work on the sacrum. So again, in your transitions, you're just throwing in anything that you want to add. So I might, just because I've pressed some points, Say goodbye to the shoulder, bounce it. And go passage joint movement. And now we're going to do 5 points on the sacrum. There's so many points on the sacrum. Don't worry about measuring for them. You can't go wrong. Just pick a point. I like to definitely be right next to the posterior superior iliac spine, the SI joint. And then go up a little bit higher. And I like to come out a little lateral and do some points there. And there. So now we're gonna do some compressions with breath. We did that earlier up here. The only difference down here is we're not just going to push down, we're also going to push towards the feet to lengthen the low back. So I'm pushing down, but using the heel of my hand to push towards the feet. So now I'm going to ask my client to take a big breath in. And on the exhale, push. And inhale, out. Exhale, push. And one more time. And the last step in this part of the recipe is medium knee. So I like it to be really vigorous. You can use the heels of your hands, you can use your fists. And there you go, the back treatment.